Hello, my name is Jana Ballard and I am a choral director and voice teacher at LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts in New York City. And I am super honored that Eric asked me to say a few words about the rehearsal process that I would use to teach the virtual choir 6 Sing Gently. Very excited about this experience. My students and I love rehearsing and performing Eric Whitacre's music, so this is really exciting for me. So what I would focus on first with this piece, and what I focus on first with most pieces that I teach, is with a question to my students, which is generally, what is the style of this piece? Now, a lot of times my students don't know what the style of a piece is when we first start learning it, but once we are able to answer that question, it helps us understand a very important element in music that we need to use when singing, which is our tone quality. And of course, when you think tone quality, many other terms come to mind, such as timbre or tone colors. So we need to start thinking about the very first statement in the piece. So if we're looking at the music, and you're thinking about this very first statement, which is, may we sing together, that can go so many directions. And I'm sure your teachers have really exaggerated some words for you in your rehearsals to show you which vowels are not as appropriate as others. For example, they may do something like, may we sing together, which is very easy for me because I'm from Kentucky. Or they may go the other direction, which is exaggerated like this. And so, especially thinking about these first 3 vowels in the piece, may we sing, we need to think about truly using tall, warm vowels that will blend well, that will help us sing with really good intonation so that we're singing in tune, and we are together, like the text says. So one way that might be helpful for you to achieve this really great tone in the beginning is to sing through it first on an ooh and then switch to an e, which if my students are hearing this, you know I love my ooey ooeys in class. So for example, ooey 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 ooey, so this ooey, may we sing together, helps us accomplish that beautiful tall vowel quality, tone quality that will help us blend, sing in tune, and have the most beautiful sound for this wonderful style, which is contemporary choral music, right? The next thing I would move on to, which also goes along with this next phrase, would be rhythmic accuracy. So the first thing I want to talk about with rhythmic accuracy is our cutoffs. A big component in this piece, as you see in measure 7, 8, we have those quarter rests at the ends of the phrases. It's really important that you circle the quarter rest so that you're cutting off together, again, back to the word together, so that no one's hanging over in the phrases. So you're really, really accurate with your cutoffs and your rhythms. The next rhythmic accuracy plan would be to look at page 3, which is the second page of music, at measures 17 going to 18. So as you know, the piece is in 3/4 time, right? So as a review, you know, 3 beats per measure, quarter note gets the beat, and we're sticking with 3/4, and then we get to measure 17, and it switches to 4/4 meter. So that might not seem too hard for most of you, but it can catch you off guard. So I highly recommend that at measure 17, you circle the 4/4 meter, and at 18, you circle the 3/4 meter so that you remember that there is a meter switch here. I would also recommend that you write in your counting numbers for measure 17 and 18. So let's review that really quickly, what that might look like. So sopranos, for example, at 17, have this really cool rhythmic phrase, which is new. It's a new rhythmic phrase in the piece. It's a dotted 8th followed by a 16th. So if we put measure 17 and 18 together, sopranos, and this is about our tempo, okay? And we're thinking, this is our tempo, this is our quarter note. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, and so on and so forth. Altos at 17, you have a dotted quarter. So 1 and 3, 4, 1 and 3, 1, 2. Tenors and basses, you have quarter notes. Baritones, you have a half note thrown in there at 17. I know you can do it. Looking on into the piece, this similar thing happens again on page 5 at measure 41. This time, however, the 4/4 bar stays for 2 measures. So again, circle that. I would write in those counting numbers, absolutely for sure. And then I would circle the 3/4 bar at measure 43. So rhythmic accuracy, get those cutoffs, mark those quarter rests, mark your meter changes, write in some counting numbers when it's tricky or a little bit different. The next thing I want to talk about, which these are 2 of my favorite things to talk about in my chorus rehearsals, are tempo changes and dynamics, which of course these 2 things are our expressive factors. They really add to the expressiveness of the phrases and of the overall piece. So pay attention to the poco ritarando, which means to gradually get slower, right? A little slower. And then a tempo following that means going back to the original tempo. These are very, very important. So make sure you've marked these in your music, you've circled them so that you're ready for them when you come to them making your recording for the Virtual Choir 6. And then I think my absolute favorite thing to talk about are dynamics. And I know all of you have learned what that means, right? Dynamics means what? The loudness and softness in music, right? The volume of music. And that's correct. That is a good definition. However, I was taught to not think of dynamics that way, but instead to think, why has the composer put these dynamic markings in the music? Is it just so that we sing soft and loud? No, it's to bring out expressiveness. They're there for expression. And most of the time, I would say all the time in Eric Whitacre's music, the dynamic markings are there to bring out specific text relationship with the music. So really mark those dynamic markings, dig in, bring out those crescendos. Some of them are very short. You have a very, very small amount of time to crescendo. Same with the decrescendo. Some of them are small decrescendos. Sometimes we have more time to make a grand crescendo happen or more dramatic decrescendo happen. But please mark those and make sure that you're truly singing those expressive dynamic markings correctly so that the true feeling of the piece is brought out in your voice. I hope this has helped. I hope that you're excited about singing in Eric Whitacre's Virtual Choir 6, Sing Gently. I know I am. This is a really great thing for all of us during this time of quarantine. We love choral music. I miss singing with my students. I miss teaching my students. So hopefully this will be a great way for all of us to feel better and to sing and make music together. Thank you, Eric, for this opportunity. Everyone have a wonderful time learning the music. Have a wonderful time recording.